Black families were systematically shut out of the post-war suburban housing boom. Many housing developers, leaders, and homeowners conspired to prevent black families from moving to white neighborhoods. If a black family did move in, white residents sometimes reported to arson and vandalism to force them out. The courts and police often looked other ways. Still, many black families resisted migration. During the war, thousands of African Americans had found new opportunities working in war production industries post-war. Industrial growth promised to create even more jobs. Black families left the segregated South to take advantage of opportunities in northern industrial centers. Black families faced segregation and discrimination at all levels of education. Many public schools were segregated. Black veterans tried to take advantage of the bill, but majority white colleges admitted few black students. Some industries had no training programs open to people of color. As a result, education quickly became an important front in the fight for civil rights. Although it was fought on distant shores, World War II affected most Americans. Over 16 million served in the war. Industries retooled to produce war material, and civilians pitched however they could. After the war, families saw a return to normalcy. The transition was not always easy, but it led to a period of unprecedented prosperity and growth in the late 1940s and 50s. During World War II, African Americans contributed to the war effort both on the front lines and at home. Many hoped fighting tyranny abroad would lead to better conditions at home after the war. Many black families saw better social and economic opportunities created by America's post-war prosperity. Tragically, their patriotism and pursuit of a better life was often met with continued discrimination and segregation. These events helped fuel a new era, civil rights um, activism. I like the museum because it's something to do when you're on summer break, right? I like it.
Champions a plan to divide Palestine into Jewish and Arab states, but he encounters resistance from the man he considers the greatest living American, Secretary of State George Marshall. Marshall predicts a costly war if Palestine is partitioned without a peace deal. Angered Arab nations could cut off American access to oil markets, or worse, align themselves with the Soviet Union, destroying
to defend itself with bayonets forever until extinguished in blood.
They could be lifted to the status of other peoples.
We're playing with fire while having nothing with which to put it out.
The choice for our people is between statehood and extermination.
Truman feels the pressure. News has reached him that Jewish leaders plan to declare independence as soon as the British leave. Their militias are the strongest forces on the ground. They see no need to ask permission from the White House or from the UN to claim the homeland they've long desired.
The Jewish state exists because we defend it.
Truman convenes a meeting of his closest advisors on May 12th, just 2 days before the British leave Palestine and Israel declares independence. White House counsel Clark Clifford argues that the United States should immediately recognize the new Jewish state and offer its fullest support.
Perhaps these steps would help
That's
atone,
pretty.
in some small way, for the atrocities that occurred during the Holocaust.
George Marshall continues to urge restraint, but it's clear to him that Truman favors recognition. Seizing on Clifford's role as Truman's key campaign advisor, he concludes that this push is a ploy to capture Jewish votes in the upcoming election. Angered, he snapped at Truman.
If in the election I was to vote, I would vote against the president.
It's a stinging rebuke from a man Truman respects. It's also a threat. Marshall
Making
is
a
a
YouTube
beloved
video.
war hero. If he publicly splits from the president, it could doom his re-election chances.
I'm just
After the meeting, Clifford
showing the people the view, you know.
State Department trying to find a compromise. In 2 days, the Jewish state
1949, under an armistice, Israel gains more territory, including West Jerusalem, whenever it's called.
Marshall says word that he won't endorse recognition, but he won't oppose it.
What is fair? I'm not asking for social equality because no such thing exists, but I am asking for equality of opportunity for all. Harry Truman's own modest background reinforced by his appreciation for the shared sacrifices of ordinary fellow Americans during the Second World War led him to endorse, what does that say? Initiatives favoring the common man over business elites. The idea of fairness was a guiding principle for Truman. After the war, he sought to hold corporations accountable and address inequality, yet Congress rejected his ambitious 21-point domestic agenda. 1948, his growing awareness of racial violence led him to disagree. The military and civilian federal government were workforced by executive order. This marked a historic turn in the Democratic Party toward support the civil rights. Truman stunned the nation when he won 1948 re-election campaign as president in his own right. He rebranded his agenda a fair deal. How does a president balance general welfare and personal liberty? Nice. So yeah, museums are very awesome to come to on summer break and all that. So I will check with y'all in a bit. Bye.